Hello and welcome everyone. Hopefully my sound and everything is coming out clear on Twitch's end. Welcome everyone who is joining the Twitch chat right now. Thank you for being here and taking time out of your workday or evening or morning. My name is Tessa Merrow, and I'm a developer advocate at Cloudinary. I also am a huge developer community person. I've been involved in developer communities for almost 10 years now. And right now I am running the Jamstack Meetup mainly. And yes, thanks James Quick for the recommendation on the lights. It's so much better for live streaming and video calls. I have here some guests from StepZen. I have Anthony, Samuel, and Anant. Thank you for joining us and being able to share your vast knowledge of lots of cool things. StepZen is a really cool product. I spent some time today looking at it, and it's kind of like a stitcher of data. It is really, really neat, and I'm excited that they're going to share a demo and stuff about it. So we'll start out with an intro with each, starting with Anant, then Anthony, then Samuel. So go ahead, Anant.
Hello, and Tessa, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's amazing anyway. And then I know that when I told my kid, who's 18-year-old, that I'm going to be doing Twitch streaming, his respect for me went up so high that whether this is a flop or whether I do it well or not, I am now gained respect back in the eyes of my son. So that's awesome. My name is Anant Jhingran. I'm the CEO for StepZen. And we've been doing this for about a year. And thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you about what we're doing. Sam?
Yeah, my name's Sam Hill, Samuel formerly, and I'm the software engineer over at StepZen. Just hanging out today. Anthony and Anant will be doing most of the presentation, but I'm excited. I helped out a lot with the project coming in for this demonstration. I'll be showing all the powers and capabilities of StepZen's APIs and how we do stitch together what Tessa was saying, all your different backend APIs. And I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Campolo. I am a newer addition to the StepZen family. I'm a developer advocate, and I just started a couple weeks ago, but really excited to be here. And I've been in the Jamstack community for a long time. The very first talk I ever gave actually was for Jamstack Denver. So really happy to be here for Jamstack SF and to show you guys some cool StepZen stuff.
Yes, thank you so much. And thanks everyone that, we've been doing this Jamstack meetup recently. It used to be in San Francisco at the Microsoft building, and now it's virtual for probably the rest of this year. I'll make it virtual. And then starting 2022, we're going to be back most likely in person in San Francisco. So I'm excited to host some in-person meetups for everyone. And we're going to go ahead and get started with a demo. Is that right?
No, there's a bit of a setup, and then there's a demo, Tessa.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the A in Jamstack. So as you all know, as you all love, the fact is that Jamstack is made up of kind of three broad categories of things: JavaScript and different JavaScript frameworks, markup, and the support for markup with static site builders and others, and of course the big A in the middle, which is the APIs that allow you to hydrate either your static content or your dynamic content with stuff from various backends, for example, Auth0 or Cloudinary, where Tessa works. So what I'm going to talk today is about what is the role of that APIs and how can we make the A in API in Jamstack to be actually a very, very first-class citizen. So APIs are used during static builds that many of you are using today. So you may be actually building your static content. If you're building an e-commerce Jamstack site, you may be picking product information from Contentful. Price perhaps doesn't sit in Contentful, it sits in some MySQL, and reviews may come in Mongo, and you're using either APIs or some direct connects to get information, and then you're going to actually do kind of static pages build out, and then you deploy it. But then at runtime, from the browser, you want to actually support access to dynamic content, and that is where other sets of APIs may come in. You may have an API that determines the location of where the user is, and therefore you may want to connect with IPAPI, which is a very good API for determining the locations based on IP address. You may want to tailor your message based on weather. Therefore, you may be connecting with Open Weather Map, or you may want the latest inventory available to you, which is different than what are the static builds. So APIs play a role both during static builds and in dynamic builds, and that I think is fundamentally important to actually really succeed with Jamstack. Now, there are lots of APIs. Each API behaves differently. There is kind of different syntax. There's different authorizations. There is different ways in which response comes back. And then you also have to do a lot for each of those APIs. So for example, if from a browser you want to call an API, you need to be able to protect the key for that API, because obviously you don't want the key to actually leak into the browser. You want to ensure that the query that the browser is executing doesn't get modified in the browser. So for example, if you have an API that allows a request which is what is available for sale given a month, you don't want somebody to go and manipulate the month parameter in the browser, and suddenly they can find out what products will be available for sale next month, and that could leak kind of competitive information. So the way you do this is you write kind of some Lambda functions or some other serverless functions, then you deploy it and you maintain it in order to kind of take care of one API. And then you've got to do this for the second API that you've got to deal with. Its key has to be protected, its query has to be protected. So you write more Lambda functions and you deploy it, et cetera, et cetera. So in order to kind of make all of this API stuff work in the Jamstack environment, you're doing a lot of manipulations of the APIs, even if those APIs are available to you. And that's not all. You've got to kind of handle errors, you've got to handle caching, expired keys, et cetera. So you've got to kind of take care of a lot of these things for APIs to become a full first-class citizen of your Jamstack stuff. So we have just written a blog on this. You guys should go and check it out on all the things that you've got to do in order to take care of some of these things that you want to hide or protect from your stuff. So when you get a chance, do check this out, which is in the blog section of StepZen.com. But then there are other things that you need to do with the APIs. You need to kind of stitch APIs together. If something happens, then call this API, otherwise call this API. You want to cache if the backend is not responsive. If you've got like 800 milliseconds to respond back, and if the backend is not responsive, then you've got to kind of set up a cache in order to make something work. You have to monitor whether your key has expired or not expired, because otherwise you're going to give suboptimal functions. So now you write more Lambda functions and you kind of deploy it and you maintain it, et cetera, et cetera. So your work, in order to really make kind of API world story work, there's a decent amount of work that you need to do to kind of both build and manage and protect yourself. We believe that GraphQL is a natural, given that there are so many APIs that you deal with, GraphQL is a natural API of APIs. GraphQL allows, kind of says that different backends and different ways of connecting to the backend can all be made uniform in the context of a GraphQL endpoint. And therefore, you can kind of fetch a customer information and her orders and the delivery status all with one GraphQL API. So therefore, in our mind, this API problem associated with Jamstack needs to be solved with GraphQL. But in order to be able to use GraphQL, of course, you need to be able to, it should be very easy to set up. You should not get into all the complications with backends. You should be able to abstract away the SQL, the NoSQL, the REST, the GraphQL backends, whatever backends you have that you need to be able to kind of stitch things together as Tessa was talking about. And so that's really, really important for you to be able to leverage the power of abstracting the backend APIs away. But in addition, I told you a lot about some of the runtime problems. Therefore, you also probably need something as a service that kind of takes this GraphQL concept and stores the keys safely, manages access control, monitors the backends for performance, parallelizes the execution, and is always on, so that your customers who come to your Jamstack app can depend on the fact that this stuff is always on and is always available. And if this can actually be made to happen, then you can use the same concept for static builds as well as for dynamic builds. Now, there are many providers out there, kind of just general class of problems that I talked about. There are many people who are trying to solve this for all of you developers. Apollo is there, Hasura is there, GraphQL Mesh is there, etc. I'm not going to talk about what they do and they don't do. You should all check it out. But we have got kind of a unique take on how we do it and how easy we make it for you. And therefore, I'm going to talk to you about how this overall problem of APIs and making APIs to be really accessible and always on, and for them to protect your keys and everything else is solved using StepZen. So our mantra is that you as a developer have to worry about a lot of things, and therefore how easy can we make it for you to be able to get a live GraphQL endpoint? So can you pick something from a public repo that we have, for example, at StepZen, mix and match it with some private repo of GraphQL snippets, combine them, and then deploy them, and you get a live endpoint. And we'll actually show you, Anthony and I will show you how you can that easily do it. That's what we want to get to. We want to get to kind of reducing the friction of you building and leveraging GraphQL in your Jamstack environment, because we believe that with GraphQL, you get a huge amount of benefit with respect to all the API stuff that you've got to do. So in our world, the way this is actually done is that you define interfaces, which is how your application wants to see the data. Okay? You connect the backends with the data. Sometimes there is only one backend for a particular interface, in which case you can skip the interface and just deal with the backend. And then you link interfaces together. You write basically these simple GraphQL snippets from scratch, or as I said, you just do StepZen import from a private repo or from public repo. You can upload and deploy these assets on StepZen so that it's an always on live endpoint, or I'll show you how you can actually use StepZen Start to actually automatically monitor it. So in today's demo, what we'll do is we will actually do StepZen import, which will pull, and a StepZen Start, which will kind of watch and deploy. So you'll always have a live endpoint as you build up more and more complexity into your GraphQL system. So what we're going to do, if the demo gods are good with us, okay, we are going to take an application that Sam and Anthony have built, which is a very, very simple application, which is a post-login application that will show for a customer what her orders are and what the delivery status and a few other things are. And some of that is dynamically built and some of that is statically built. And then after Anthony has shown you what the front end is, I'm going to come back and I'm actually going to build the endpoint, GraphQL endpoint, with this kind of imports and starts, and you'll see how easy it is. That kind of assembles all of this information together that Anthony uses. And of course, I'm going to build it on a different endpoint than the endpoint that Anthony has built. And then if everything works well and if the demo gods are smiling on us, Anthony will redeploy the application with that new endpoint that I just created, and hopefully everything should work. So with that, the two people who have helped me build this is Anthony. Anthony is also a music virtuoso, or at least his picture says so. And he's just actually awesome in not just the technical stuff that he does. So he's going to actually show some part of the demo, and the other person is Sam, who has just introduced himself. So with that, let me hand it over to Anthony.
As Sam had said, we had worked on this together. Really, most of the functionality here was all Sam. I kind of just cleaned it up and refactored it and made the Lighthouse score really good. But this is our little demo here. The first thing you want to notice, actually, sorry, I'll start from 0. So this is the demo. We have our user because we're already logged in. So we are John, and you see here we're pulling out the name and saying, "Hey, John, we can't retrieve your delivery status right now." And there's two things we can do here. We can ask for the weather, and that's going to give us the weather in Florida for John Doe. And then we can also provide our carrier and tracking ID. And then once we do that, we see we have the status and the status date. So let's kind of see what's going on under the covers here. So if we do that again, first, if we look at the weather, we're going to see we get this object here. And we have the weather, and it has temperature, and temperature is 80 degrees. And then if we select the carrier and the tracking ID, we're going to get this other object that has the status and the status date. We can also see this if we go over to the network tab here. We have these two GraphQL requests. So this is going to a nonce endpoint, and it's doing this query at the bottom. And then we get back this data, and that's what the JSON looks like. And same with over here. Cool. So that is that.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see. Who is demoing next?
Yep. So we'll switch back to Anant, and then he
Alrighty.
will show the back end kind of stuff.
Great. Sounds good.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the endpoint that was used, as you saw in what Anthony showed. Some part of it is statically built, so the customer information was brought in statically, but the weather information and the delivery information was brought in dynamically. They all go against that same GraphQL endpoint, and that's the beauty about GraphQL and what we're doing at StepZen, is that you can kind of stitch these things together and call the right paths during static build and the right paths during dynamic build while maintaining all of those stuff. So let's do this. So if you look at my VS Code, look at the bottom left of it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the customer object into a new project called Meetup2. And then I'm going to deploy this project on my endpoint. API Meetup2. He was going against API Meetup, but I'm going to deploy this against API Meetup2. And not only does it publicly get deployed, but you get a local proxy that can actually help you manage it. So remember this, that all I did was create a customer object. And let me kind of show you what that code for that customer object was before we get there. So if you look at it, all I did was when I imported this GraphQL, and it just has the description of what the customer object is. With just these 16 lines of code, okay, which is just describing the object and the queries that you want to support to the object, I deploy it, I get a live endpoint, and now I can issue a query. Now, of course, because there's no backend, the way this works in our system is that if there's no backend yet, the interface is live, but it's live against lorem ipsum data, and we continue to enhance the kinds of capabilities. But look, that you wrote those 16 lines of code, you didn't even write them, you imported them, and you deployed them, and you have a live endpoint that you can actually issue queries against. But now let's kind of add a backend to this. So let's in this case, the backend that you're choosing is an Airtable backend. So the customer information is coming from Airtable. Let's just add it. I'm now pulling that in, and you'll see this on the right-hand side that obviously, because Airtable is a secret, I have to kind of give the Airtable key, base ID, and the authorization. And now StepZen, this command watches it and says that something has changed. And now let's issue the same query, but and let's see what happens. And now you get the answer back from Airtable. Okay. So just by pulling in a backend snippet, you've connected that backend snippet to the front end, and StepZen has watched it. And just to see what this code was very, very simple. This code said that, look, my backend, the backend that I want is Airtable, and there is just some configuration which says what query to issue against the Airtable. And we continue to enhance our introspection capabilities and others to make this even simple and simpler. But the idea really is you're still writing GraphQL code with some directives, and you're connecting, and that thing is all live. So now if you guys get the idea of this, let me just do more of this. Let me import order, okay, and order this time will come from MySQL. Okay, and let me. Okay, and now with MySQL, of course, there is still some hidden key that I've got to provide, because otherwise I'll not be able to connect with it. Let me provide that key. Okay, and now StepZen has watched it and has deployed it. Now, if things are working okay, then I should be able to ask for order ID 1, and order, for example, has a field called created on. Okay. And now I get this field coming from order. So just by pulling in order and order MySQL, and just to kind of show you what the code was, the code is very simple. In this case, all I'm saying is that in order to materialize these, go against this table. Now, obviously, you can write more queries and more complications, but we try to make some very, very simple default assumptions that make the job of you connecting backends to this very easy. So you saw customer and order being separate, but obviously one of the powers of GraphQL is to actually connect customers, stitch types together. So let's kind of stitch orders into customers. Okay. In order to stitch orders into customers, I pull in another schema snippet. In this case, the schema snippet is, and I'll show you what that snippet is. But all I do is I say attach customer to order. I pull that in, and hopefully StepZen will deploy it. And now I should be able to ask for orders in the context of a customer. And look, suddenly I was able to stitch in orders. The reason you're getting that squiggly line is I've not reloaded the schema, etc. It doesn't matter. But I was able to now stitch orders into customers very simply by just importing something and which said that kind of stitch this together. And therefore, the right order objects showed up in the context of the customer object. Pretty cool, I think. And we hope that you like it too. But just to see what's really going on out here here's the thing that I actually pulled in, okay, called customer order. And all it says is that you extend the interface of customer with a field called orders. And you just give some directive to StepZen, which says, how do you actually materialize it? And these are very simple, and we make some really, really smart decisions out there. But just by writing these 6 lines of code, you have connected your order object into the customer object. Okay, so now that you guys get the idea, let me just kind of continue and build out the stuff. Let me kind of pull in product from. Pull in product, and product is coming from Contentful. Okay, and let me also link the product into order. Now this time it will ask me for Contentful stuff. Contentful requires something called space ID, and it obviously requires some authorization. And now products are available. Not only a product object available, but it's available in the context of an order. So I can go, and for orders, I can now say, give me, why did it go in caps lock? Sorry. And let's get the name of the product. Oh, because there's no field called product. Okay, as this guy was saying, we will have some fat finger thing. But look, just by pulling those 3 in, not only was I able to fetch the data from Contentful, but I was able to actually link it into my orders. Okay, now let me just do a couple of others, because he showed delivery. The interesting thing about delivery is that delivery, you don't have to write. We have actually already prepackaged delivery. We have we have built a connector and schema for delivery. So all you do is you don't actually pull it in from a private repo. in this case, you just pull it in from a public repo. Okay, so StepZen import delivery, okay, and put it in Meetup 2, and now you will have the delivery information available out there. And now you want to do is you want to link delivery information into the orders. Okay, so you bring a link file, order delivery, okay, and you bring it from here. Okay, and now delivery has been linked up into orders. And then let me just do the final bit, which is weather, and then I'll do kind of a one mega query just to show that everything kind of works. Let me pull in weather, and let me connect weather to customer, and I'll show you what the code is for connecting customer to the weather. And let's just kind of bring that in, and because we are going against open weather map, we need to specify app ID. Okay, and just to show you what happened with weather, and you can see what happened. You can when you guys do it, you can see what is the code for delivery, what is the code for delivery FedEx, etc. But just in the case of weather, okay, weather is going against open weather map, and this is the query that you need to execute against open weather map. And then in order to link the weather into the customer, all we did was we imported these 3 lines of code, and that stitched weather into customer. It's as simple as this. We have written a lot of these things that you guys can go and check out, but on the other hand, you can actually write some of these things also. So the idea behind it is to make it really, really simple for you to pull, hydrate them with real backends, and then connect the dots. So now let me just kind of do a Mongo query, and hopefully it will all work. And let me get the for this customer. Okay, let me just do this, which is reload of the thing, so that I don't make a mistake in this. Okay, now let me do this for this customer. Let me get her orders. Okay, order is all her orders, and then for the orders, let me get created on. Let me get the product that order is about. Let me get the name of the product. Okay, let me get for this customer, for this order, let me get the delivery date. Okay, and therefore for this customer, okay, let's run this query, and you're getting all this information that you saw. And then for this order, let me get the delivery date, delivery information that you saw, and let me just pick up the status, and let me prettify it, and then let me run. And look, the information is coming. This is real information coming in from FedEx and from UPS. Okay, so you saw this, that we kind of pulled in a lot of backends and kind of quickly assembled them. And just to make sure that this exactly serves the needs, I'm going to hand the control back to Anthony. And Anthony, hopefully as Anthony has switched over to API/Meetup 2, and you'll see that what I built is exactly what Anthony needed in order to run his query. Anthony, back to you.
Quick, there's a couple questions in chat. Can we pause for a moment?
Yes.
Let's see, comments. Let me scroll. The most recent one was, I missed how the customer IP is passed to the weather service. Was that part of the import weather or part of the 3 lines of extending?
No, whenever you're connecting, so this weather service actually takes city information into account. So this weather is based on city. Okay, so let me just kind of, is my screen still being shown?
No, it's not.
So can you show my screen? Then I'll show the code for weather.
There it is. Yeah, it's showing now.
Okay, so this weather is by city, not by IP. Okay, this weather is by city. Okay, so we are making a open weather map call that's based on city, but to link weather to customer, okay, we didn't have to do anything because customer already has a city information. Okay, and so if you look at this code, all we said is connect weather report connect this query as a field called weather into customer, and just call that function. And we make all the smart decisions. We say, that query requires city, and do I have a city field available? But if we can't make those smart decisions, then you sometimes have to specify what the mapping is. For example, you might have to say, okay, pick the field called ID and connect it and drop it into the field called customer ID. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, he says, got it. That makes sense. All right, another question. I use Postman. Can you please compare and contrast with Postman?
No, so we also love Postman. We use Postman all the time. So what the problem that Postman solves for us is understanding the REST backend that we need to use. But all the tasks that you need to do above in order to kind of connect the dots or ping dots together or pass the keys and store the keys, etc., that's all we do. So for example, if you look at my weather query here, folks, okay, I use Postman extensively to see what are the right sets of parameters to call with respect to open weather map. And for that, I use Postman. But everything else, when it comes to kind of bringing it into GraphQL and connecting the dots, etc., is done in our system. And therefore, it's entirely complementary to Postman.
All right. And another one, what's the advantage of using StepZen on browser over just using GraphQL app on Mac OS?
Nothing. It is just an easy start. If you have an app, you're more than welcome to use it. In fact, half the time we use that app and other times. But the one thing that we have done is to automatically give you a local proxy. So if you saw how I was running those queries, okay, I was running those queries with a local host :5000. So therefore, you don't have to set up keys or anything else like that. We kind of just take care of it, so you can kind of test and debug in this environment. But we are big fans of graphical apps.
And the next one is by Luca. This requests are made on GraphQL through a StepZen REST directive, or is it something from the GraphQL itself?
No, the directives, we use some of the standard directives, but there are three new directives that you saw out there. There's a REST directive, there's a materializer directive. Materializer stitches the two things. REST directive is a directive used to connect the REST backend, and we have a database directive to connect with databases. Okay, so those are three additional directives, but with very, very simple syntax that are extensions in StepZen.
Great. Does that answer your question, Luca? Lucas Tsunami. Very cool name. All right, then we can move on to the next step.
So I'll be passed back over to me then, I believe.
Alrighty.
All right. Okay, so now we've got basically the same thing we had before. We're going to see the weather like so. Now we're going to get this information. And if we check to see, okay, where is this coming from? Then we can see that it is coming from Meetup 2. There you go. So we just changed it in our GitHub repo, re-triggered the build, and then here we are. We got the new endpoint. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much. And hopefully everyone goes ahead and tries out their, what was it, alpha?
Yeah.
Yes, try out the private alpha.
So you saw this, and you saw this kind of complex queries and other things that we can issue where we are picking stuff up from different backends, just to kind of give you an idea of what we do and how we do it. This particular query, for example, we manage all the parallelism and others. So if you look at this query can only be done with first getting customer information, because without that, you can't really get order information, all that stuff. But then a huge amount of parallelism can be done behind the cover. So for example, if you look at how we are executing this query, we basically fire whatever we can in parallel. And if you look at the slowest query here is a UPS query, right? But you didn't have to add stuff around it. They were all executed in parallel. And those are some of the things that we do because we've got kind of a runtime as a service engine that figures out what's the right execution paths and everything else. So you just set up that endpoint by pull and link, and it's live, and it executes this. So as Tessa was saying, you can try this app that Anthony and Sam has built. There's a repo behind it. You should sign up for the alpha on StepZen.com. You can check out some of the blogs that we talk about, and of course, we will love your feedback. Okay, with that, we have reached the end of our presentation. If there are other questions, we'd be very happy to answer them.
Awesome, thank you so much. So it is open for community Q&A. I know you've all been asking questions throughout the stream, but if anyone has any final questions about StepZen, about maybe features, about the products, capabilities, now is the time. Otherwise, how can they contact you if they have any questions?
We have a Discord.
Oh,
should
no
I just
problem
add
at
a should I just add a comment somewhere?
Oh, perfect.
I think we got it.
You can join Discord via.
Okay.
I'm joining it right now.
Awesome.
Clicking.
Sorry about this, guys. Sorry, guys and gals. Sorry.
Nice. Oh, we have other people joining too. Wonderful. Everyone, are we, Honore says, are we in the conference call? Yes, your mic is live, Honore. We can hear you giggling in the background. Okay, not really. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Do we have any final questions or comments or something that anyone in the community wants to share? And any final comments by all of you?
I just want to say we had this up on the StepZen samples repo, which we've started recently, that we're putting out some more open source type stuff so people can actually see some of the code and can maybe like fork it, deploy it themselves, play around with it. So recommend checking that out. Feel free to give us pull requests or to add comments or anything like that. We'd have to get you involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And to tie to that, with that open repo that we're going to be having, there's going to be a lot of imports in there to where we've already built out a lot of APIs and a lot of the configurations that you would have to spend a lot of time of reading documentation. We've already built a lot of those out for you. So you can just jump right in there, import a bunch of different types of APIs, including Tessa, Cloud, and Aries. So there's plenty of stuff in there that we've built out. So go ahead. Those will be in there pretty soon. Keep a watch on it. And yeah, let us know if we have anything going in there that the imports interest you.
We have a vision, which is that we want to make the job of front-end developers so easy that they can basically ask for whatever bits of information they want, and it should just magically appear. They should be able to edit and change whatever bits of information they want, and it should magically happen. We are on that journey. Hopefully you saw some early glimpses of how you can actually do real stuff very, very easily against backends. But if you join us on a journey, there's lots more to come.
This is great. And remember, if you're trying out StepZen, I'm sure they will absolutely love any kind of feedback on their documentation, on their product. And, you know, it always helps improve everything and make it a better developer experience for everyone else. So your feedback's always valuable.
Okay, awesome. And then exactly as there was a question out there, if I may just answer, which is how would you sell? And Sean Grove, thank you very much for answering this. You are again absolutely right that Shopify. In fact, if you go into our samples repo, I don't know whether it's up right now, but soon you'll see how you can actually use Shopify and extract information from it, but also then bring in other data that may or may not sit in Shopify.
And it'll be nice to be able to tie Shopify together with like Salesforce. Okay.
Yes,
Cool.
Sean, and go Jamstack, GraphQL SF, Sean.
Yep.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. We're going to start streaming soon, and one of the first demos that I'll be doing is a Shopify one. So keep your eyes out for that one. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah, definitely post like the stream link in the Jamstack community Slack. I know they have like a big community there. And I'm sure a lot of people would enjoy watching that. I would like to watch that too.
Cool.
So
Awesome. Vic, there's a question on how would I price it compared to other services. We haven't yet worked out the price, but right now there are no limits for you to try and as many queries that you want to run through us. We have built a fairly efficient system that we think that we should be able to give you and calls which are like in hundreds of thousands per dollar or even less. But we haven't yet worked that out. But right now, we want kind of feedback on the product and its use, and obviously we'll do a pricing that is very friendly to all of you.
very nice. All right, that just about sums it up. Wickethel says, cool, excellent.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you, all of you, for being here and taking your time today, and everyone in the community. I will make sure to post a recording. I'll probably post in the Jamstack Slack. We have a giveaway. I'm about to pick 4 winners. This is your last chance to enter the giveaway, and it's going to be donations. StepZen is sponsoring this event and donating to Women Who Code, right? womenwhocode.org. And they're a wonderful organization that supports women in education and in tech. All right, I am going to click the selection and see if it works in 5 seconds. Last chance. 4, 3, 2, 1, and click. Oh, it works. I tried to exclude my name. Okay, so here's the winners. Spirit and Wine, Henri Helvetica, Wickethal, and Programmers.
With 2 hours. Yeah, that's great.
Great. So 4 of you, please send me an email and I'll connect you with StepZen, who is doing the donation on behalf of you. And then, yeah, we should be good to go. All right. Thank you, everyone. Programmer said very nice gesture. Thanks, StepZen. Thank you very much for contributing to developer communities, contributing to these organizations, and just being a big part of the whole Jamstack ecosystem in all ways. So thank you very much. And this is the end. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.